Before we start today's episode, I would like to quickly read you our podcast disclaimer. The content in this podcast is for general reference and educational purposes only. It is not meant to be complete or exhaustive or to be applicable to any specific individual's medical condition. No information provided in this podcast constitutes medical advice and is not an attempt to practice medicine or to provide specific medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. This podcast does not create a physician-patient relationship and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please do not rely on this podcast for emergency medical treatment. Remember that everyone is different, so make sure you consult your own healthcare professional before seeking any new treatment and before you alter, suspend, or initiate a new change in your routine. Welcome to The Starting Gate. We're your hosts, Dr. Kitty Dotson
and Dr. Sarah Sheets,
two internal medicine doctors who spent years practicing traditional primary care. Over time, we realized something was missing from modern healthcare. A real understanding of how everyday lifestyle choices impact overall health.
We'll help you cut through the noise of the countless health influencers and their conflicting opinions, because no matter who you follow, the basics of lifestyle medicine are at the heart of it all.
Welcome back to The Starting Gate. We're your hosts, Dr. Kitty Dotson
and Dr. Sarah Sheets.
And today we are going to continue to talk about habits. We're going to talk about tackling the common setbacks you may run into when you're making habit changes. And the other thing we're going to stress in this episode is the importance of being an advocate in your own health, really taking responsibility for your health and optimizing the time you have with your doctor.
Yes, we're really wanting you to be knowledgeable about what's going on so you feel empowered to take care of yourself. It's important to know how your own body works, the impact of your daily habits, and the potential risk you face personally based off of your habits. So overall, just walking away from the show knowing that we want you to be an expert in you. Because without that knowledge, it's going to be extremely hard to know where to spend your time and effort on this health journey. We will talk a little bit more about how to advocate for your health later in this episode, but we're going to go back to habits first and really start to talk about setbacks. Why is that? Because setbacks are inevitable, and it's important that we learn how to respond to them. In fact, learning how to navigate setbacks can be one of the most empowering aspects in your health journey, because setbacks are that feedback that gives us insights into what might not be working and where we need to continue to make adjustments. We know that habit change is hard because there is a lot of physiologic and psychological reasons that habit change can be challenging. Old habits are comfortable. They are likely providing some sort of reward, or you would have never started them in the first place. And some of these habits are ingrained in our lives since childhood. So learning from these setbacks can really help us reach that end goal that we're trying to obtain. Kitty and I are going to go over a couple of common setbacks today, hopefully giving you some insight on how to approach them when they happen and even plan for them, knowing that it's likely going to occur. And I'll say one of the ones that most people experience today is dealing with the lack of time. You know, you have these ambitious goals and you're really excited to change everything at once. And then you suddenly think about your schedule and you're like, I don't have any time. That is so common, and I hear that a lot from patients. Many of you all have experienced that when you've tried to make life changes before. I know that I personally have used that same excuse, and one of the ways to attack this is really that whole idea of starting small and trying to stack habits that we talked about in a past show, because this helps you from feeling overwhelmed. Instead of trying to do 10 things at once, really focusing on one or two, and even if those two habits get to be complicated or hard to achieve, go back to the drawing board and break them down even to smaller goals. I don't know. What is your experience, Kitty, on this?
Yeah, lack of time was probably the most common thing I heard in the office from patients about why they may not have a habit change. It was definitely for myself the most common reason that I held off on making changes on things in my own life. So starting small has been really key for me. I really just try to narrow in on something that's just going to take a few minutes and then build on that over time. Because really, if you say, I'm going to take 5 minutes to do X, Y, and Z, whether that's physical activity or reach out to a friend or meditate, you always have 5 minutes. You may not think you do, but you've got 5 minutes somewhere, whether that's when you're sitting in the car waiting to pick up your kid from somewhere, whether that's getting up 5 minutes earlier in the morning. you can find 5 minutes somewhere, and that's really where you need to start if lack of time is your biggest obstacle.
And something else to think about when we're talking about lack of time is working on building organizational habits. I find it very helpful when I'm working with a patient that's trying to make a lot of, let's say, dietary changes, and they are really needing to revamp a lot of what they're eating. Instead of actually focusing on changing the food that they eat, if they do not have the habit of meal planning or meal prepping yet, we focus on that first before we change anything that they're eating, because building that skill and getting that habit down can then make the whole idea of changing their diet much easier, because now they have this organization in order to get it accomplished. If there is something you're trying to tackle like that, that's where you can start.
And it doesn't have to be planning every meal for the whole week, Sarah, because when you say that,
Correct.
I'm like, oh,
yes.
I can't do that. It could just be starting with maybe planning your breakfasts Monday through Friday, something small. If the thought of actually planning your entire week is overwhelming to you, like it is for me, you can make that in smaller chunks and just start somewhere.
Yes, I love that idea, and I use it a lot, is just picking one meal. Like, is it breakfast? Do we try to work on planning breakfast? Or is it, I just need to get the habit of packing my lunch down? So then I have more control over what I eat for lunch versus I'm always on the go. So I'm stopping at fast food or grabbing something at a work cafeteria, etc. It's just breaking those habits down. And if doing lunch every day of the week's too much, then you break it down and you're like, okay, Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to accomplish that. And then you build from there and try to give yourself confidence that you can accomplish a smaller goals so you can continue to build. That is really one of the best ways to tackle the issue of lack of time, is just start small, don't get overwhelmed, and continue to build from there.
We'll talk about meal planning in a lot more detail next month when we focus on nutrition. But really our point here is if the initial goal you set feels overwhelming, make it smaller. Keep making it smaller until you feel like you can handle it. And then once that becomes ingrained, you can start adding to it. Another problem that comes up when you're trying to tackle habits is drop in motivation. Initially you're really excited about this new change that you're going to make, but if you don't really have a good understanding of why you're doing it, then a lot of times that excitement just goes away and you may never get that ingrained as a good habit for yourself. So really taking the time to focus on what's your deeper purpose for making this a habit can be very helpful to you. I know for me, when I've tried to control my weight in the past, I've lost and gained the same 30 or 40 pounds multiple times, which is not great for your metabolism. We'll come back to that in future episodes. But when I finally changed my goal from just a specific number of wanting to lose weight or a specific number I wanted to see on the scale to just, I want to feel better, I want to have more energy and feel better when I'm moving around, that made all the difference for me. So now I can enjoy eating healthy because that's really just what I want to do instead of just thinking, oh, I just have to get this number down.
That's a great way to tackle motivation, looking for that internal motivation to keep you going. I also feel like a support system is a great way to help with motivation as well. When you have someone that is there coaching you or cheering you on, either an individual or a group of people, accountability groups are fantastic, because sometimes when you're thinking about, I just don't have enough time, or it's a rainy day, I don't want to go. If you know that someone is counting on you, you are so much more likely to show up. And so really, when you're making these big lifestyle changes, figuring out what is my support system, who is my support system, and identifying that can really help with this motivation bucket.
If you're thinking to yourself, I don't have a good support group, you probably do somewhere. If you just connect with maybe someone else at work that seems like they're working on goals, if you just reach out to a friend, even if they're not on the same journey as you, I guarantee you your friend is ready to support you and say, sure, call me each week and let me know how you've done with this.
And this is also where health coaches step in a lot of times. If there is not someone in your personal life, or you don't want it to be someone in your personal life, and you want that outside view of someone to support you, having a health coach is very helpful for a lot of the high-touch accountability that you may need.
Even a lot of insurance plans now have a free I don't know if they call it a health coach, but they have a free service of wellness where you can check in with them. Do you know what I'm talking about, Sarah?
Yes, I do. I do.
Is there a better way for me to say that?
I think the root of it all, they are a health coach for most of it. They just don't actually use that terminology. But even in that sense, sometimes there are even apps out there that do this to help with accountability. We're getting very, very tech savvy today with all the AI that's out there. So if you feel like you don't have support, please look into some of these options and see if they're one that fits, because there are things out there that can help you with the support system if it doesn't feel readily available. And I really think it's worth your time and effort to find that.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing that comes up a lot is perfectionism or all or nothing kind of feelings about the habit. It's like, well, if I can't go all in and do a full 45-minute HIIT workout or make it to a cycle bar class, then I'm just not going to do it.
I completely agree. I tell people that I personally am a retired perfectionist myself, so I understand this setback very well, because as someone who only likes to do things when she can do it exactly how she wants them done, there may be some of our listeners that feel the same way. I just will avoid it altogether. It's like, oh, I didn't have the time to run 5 miles like I wanted to today, so I'm not going to do it at all. That's nonsense. There's such value in doing whatever you can. It's important to remember something is better than nothing. So you have to let this perfectionism just disappear when it comes to making lifestyle changes, because there's so many times when I see people in their health journey, and I've experienced it myself, is you're doing really well and life throws you this giant obstacle, whether it's an illness or an injury or a family stressor, a work stressor that just comes out of nowhere and knocks your whole routine. It's easy to say, well, I'm never going to be able to accomplish this lifelong. And you just give up. All that hard work that you did up until that one point can just derail you, because you're letting perfectionism be the reason you're not accomplishing this, not the obstacle. And so instead of that, it's just really important when those situations happen is figure out, I might have to scale back and I have to accept that it's okay.
So just another example, you may have had a time where you've planned a 20, 30-minute exercise routine and something's come up, and now that 20 minutes is now 5 minutes. You don't have to waste that 5 minutes just because now you don't have time to do what you had initially planned, a video or something. You can just take 5 minutes to walk or take 5 minutes to do some push-ups and sit-ups and squats, and you've still done something, and you can still feel like I kept on track, and it's okay that it wasn't what you had initially planned.
And weekend eating is something that I think is very common in this bucket, and I hear a lot, is Monday through Friday, because there is so much structure in your schedule. You know, you're able to knock out those goals, your dietary goals for the week, and then the weekend hits and you don't have that in place. And say you go out for breakfast that morning, and then because that wasn't the perfect breakfast, we just say, well, forget it. All weekend long, I'm just going to do whatever. If you're able to just stop that and be like, I'm going to enjoy this breakfast. This is something I'm really excited about. You're there, you're in it, and not letting that one enjoyable meal derail everything. That's how you make these lifelong changes, because you learn how to balance it. So it's really important to learn how to address this setback.
And you don't punish yourself later and say, well, I ate this, so now I'm going to punish myself and do X,
Correct.
Y, and Z to make up for it. That's fine. You did that, and then you get back to what you've been doing throughout the week for the rest of the day and the rest of the weekend.
And that kind of bleeds into our next obstacle is external stresses that occur that we all experience. I feel like that's what I have dealt with for the past month, and I feel this right now. When things that just come out of nowhere that you weren't planning for, how do you overcome that and really feel like you're still moving forward? And really, I think this requires you to have grace for yourself and think and remember that it's okay to reset your plan. Suddenly, I have multiple doctor's visits, let's say, for a child that might be dealing with something that came out of nowhere, and that took away your normal exercise time, right? Because your kid needs you. You have to be there. I can't do my normal classes at Orange Theory. So how do I not just give everything up? Re-look at your schedule, and you have to change the priorities for a short period of time, knowing when everything settles, maybe you can get back to that old schedule. But don't throw your hands up, but instead reassess, make a new plan.
Yeah, I think it's really easy, especially if you've had a few days in a row where something's come up.
Yes.
And it's thrown you off this great plan that you had in your head. I think it's really easy to just say, no way, I'm done. I can't do this. It's not going to happen. But really, the next week, if you keep at it, the next week may be a much different week and you may be able to stick to it. So don't give up for those little things. They're always going to be happening. And just incorporate knowing that and planning for that when you think about your week of doing that habit. Just know there are going to be days where this is not going to work out. So let me go ahead and think about how I'll do it differently on days where I don't have as much time.
Agree. Another one is maybe not those big life obstacles, right? But another one that I see are the smaller obstacles that happen a lot of times when it comes to social interactions. A lot of people struggle with, well, this month I have Keeneland and football tailgates and birthday parties and this work event, and I'm traveling for a week. It becomes really overwhelming to think about how can I make any changes when there's all these social things that I need to attend and nothing is going to be easy at those.
Yeah. Especially when you think about eating or drinking alcohol at these things and you're wanting to really make sure you make good choices. If you just stop for a minute and think about what you're going to encounter at that social event and how you want to handle it, you'll be much better off than if you haven't taken those few moments to think about it or maybe even prepare. Maybe you think instead of just eating all the food at the tailgate, I'm going to eat a higher protein, healthier meal before I go. And then if I see something that looks particularly tasty, I'll go ahead and eat that too. But that way you're not starving and you're trying to make the best choice from all the other tailgate options out there and overdo it in the end.
And I always tell people, bring your own appetizer. That way, if you need something to snack on, you have an option that you feel like you can lean into. Or if there is a social activity or you're needing to meet with a friend, switch the idea from going to a bar to instead, why don't we go for a walk together and make something physically active, but you can still socialize. I always tell people, it's one of my favorite things is if you're getting a guilt trip from someone, just blame your doctor. No one's going to argue with you. If your doctor tells you, hey, I'm not supposed to have X, Y, or Z, my doctor says I can't have it. Usually that makes people chill out and they'll quit guilt tripping you into do something that you're not wanting to do.
Yeah, definitely. Always blame your doctor. It's also just really important to take the time to celebrate the little wins that you have. So if you manage to do something well, even if it doesn't seem like a big deal, just reflect on that for a minute and be proud of yourself and know that you can keep doing that and you can keep making headway on that to make it bigger and bigger, and you will see the reward from that in the end.
Yes, plateaus are really challenging to handle. And in a plateau of anything when it's coming to lifestyle changes, I always think it's a great time to pause, reassess, and reflect, especially if you've had like great success leading up to that plateau, is sometimes there needs to be something that's done a little bit differently. It's not that you are not going to continue to have success, but there may need to be something altered in order to continue on this journey. Maybe that is just, I need to have more accountability if you hadn't reached or found someone up until there, or I need to be a little bit more meticulous on some tracking, or I need to adjust this goal. We know that our journey is not going to be consistent throughout, so it's natural to have these periods of time of a plateau, and we just have to accept it and reassess.
And just keep going. All of these things, and you'll hear us say this multiple times, but all of these things that we want you to change in your lifestyle is about doing it over time and about doing it for life. So the changes you see are usually slow, and that's okay because none of this is a rush. It is just trying to get you to make better habits for life. And you may go down the road of a habit and just realize this one's not going to work well. It's going to be hard for a long time for me to incorporate this. And so let me focus on something else first. So just always stop and reflect and see where you are with it.
Now, after you have done some of this personal reflection that we really encourage you to do on our previous shows, as well as some goal setting and thinking about these common obstacles that you may experience in making lifestyle change, the next step is really figuring out how to engage your doctor and your healthcare team in making making personalized changes for your health. Because I will tell you over and over again that there is not a one-size-fit-all plan. Everyone has specific personalized needs as well as risk in their health. So it's great to sit down with your healthcare team of professionals to figure out what you need to prioritize to reach your health goals.
That's right. And that gives me another thought, actually, Sarah, one that I hadn't thought about earlier, which is another obstacle I see a lot of times, or another roadblock that keeps people from hitting their goals, which is something that actually your doctor could be a really big help on this one, and that is having appropriate expectations. So I'm thinking of two examples here, and both of these are things that I think if you really thought about them, you can use your doctor to really help you here. So one that I saw really frequently was when it came to weight loss. So someone might come in and we're having our regular visit and they say, you know what, Dr. Dotson, I've had it with this weight. I'm ready to do something about it. I'm ready to lose weight. And we say, great, I'm so excited for you. And here is, we kind of go through what changes they're going to make, and they're excited and on board with that. And then at the end, I would usually say something like, okay, so that means we're looking at about losing 2 to 3 pounds a month. So when you follow back up with me in 3 to 4 months, we'll be hoping to see about a 10-pound weight loss. And I can see in their eyes that they're like, 10 pounds in 3 to 4 months? No way. And sometimes they would say something like, no way, if I'm doing all this, I'm going to be losing 10 pounds a month. The problem with that is that then they would go home and they would follow the plan for a month and they'd lost maybe 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. And then they maybe do it a few more weeks and they've lost a teeny bit more. And then they say, well, screw it. I've only lost 2 or 3 pounds. I've been doing this for 6 weeks. And obviously, I can't lose weight. I have no metabolism. I can't lose weight. That's it. And then they come back for their visit and they haven't lost any weight. They usually put that back on and they tell me, well, your plan didn't work. I didn't lose weight. I have no metabolism. I can never lose weight. This is just who I am. And really, when you stop and reflect back, they were on track. It's just that their expectation was, with all of this effort that I'm putting in, I should have lost 10 pounds by now. And they'd only lost 2. And so then without having that right expectation, you fail. So here's where if you really talk to your doctor about it, they can really help you rein in those expectations and say, no, with where you are in your life and how weight loss works, really you cannot have that expectation to lose that much that fast. And then you can still feel like you're on track and you're feeling good about how you're doing it.
And I really feel like this is where remembering the difference in intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is very helpful, because when you are on a weight loss journey, if you're always in touch for your reason why and not focused only on the scale and not focused specifically on a number, it helps you stay motivated because there's lots of, factors that are going to help you stay on board. Meaning when you're doing these changes, paying attention to how you feel. Remembering, are there chronic conditions that you're trying to control better, right? I see a lot of times patients that may lose 3 or 4 pounds, but they had a significant drop in their systolic blood pressure to the point that maybe they don't need medicine anymore. That is a huge win, right? It may not be necessarily 20 pounds of weight loss, but when it comes to your overall health, that was huge. So understanding the big picture, really trying to figure out what we're trying to do to improve our health, and asking our healthcare team about, if I lose weight, what is it going to do? What things can I track and pay attention to and know that my health is getting better, and stop focusing only on that number on the scale. I hate that because it gets people unmotivated so quickly, and they could be doing great things for their health in their body and just stop just because of that one number. And it's more than that.
Yeah, and really I'd encourage you to just be honest with your doctor, because sometimes the goals may be different. Your doctor may see that your A1C number, your sugar number, has been trending up slowly over the years. And in their mind, they're worried, oh no, if we don't change things, we're going to be at the level of diabetes in the next 1.5 years. And so that might be their main goal, is to get you away from that and get you trending the other way. But you may not have any symptoms and you may not really care about that. And so if your doctor is talking to you and saying, we got to get your sugar down, you've got to make these changes to your diet, if that's not motivating to you, just be honest and say, that's not motivating to you. I'll tell you what I am worried about, and it's how I'm going to look in my dress at my high school reunion reunion coming up. And if that's what's motivating to you, that's fine. Just be honest about it, because then your doctor can know, all right, this is what she's concerned about now, or he's concerned about now. And so then they can give you specific recommendations that are going to help meet both goals.
And on that one, I always found it extremely helpful and encourage patients, if you don't understand why high blood pressure is a problem or why having an A1C of 6.5 is a problem, ask for more information, because you may not care just because you haven't been given all the information of why you should care. I see that all the time with blood pressure, because everyone just becomes comfortable with having high blood pressure in America, and they don't realize the risk that comes along with that for their heart health and risk of stroke and risk of kidney disease. And once they have all that information, now suddenly they are motivated to do something about it because they don't want those problems. But unless you ask your doctor, sometimes you don't get that information back.
Yeah. And it's hard for your doctor to help you if you're not giving them all the information or being honest about what you're worried about and what you're not. And sometimes you may actually have the flip side where you might have noticed something changing that's worrying you, and maybe your doctor doesn't seem worried about this. Like, for example, let's say you're getting your cholesterol checked regularly and you haven't met a threshold where your doctor's really started to be concerned or recommended medications, but you're noticing a change and you're seeing how it's ticking up slowly. You know both of your parents are on cholesterol medicine and you don't want to end up there. And so they may not have brought that up because you're not at that point yet. But if you're worried about it, go ahead and talk to them about it. Let them know that you're ready to put in the effort on your end so that they can help guide you.
Many times as a physician, you're trying to read the room and understand what your patients are wanting. You know, we experience lots of different personalities, and sometimes we know there are patients that are very proactive and want to do everything for prevention. And there's also patients that don't, and they don't want to know about something until it is a problem. And it's important, especially in the time constraints that we have in office visits today with your primary care doctors, is letting them know where you stand. And you want advice based off that stance. If you are a person who hates medicines and wants to prevent using any medicine in a situation where there's lifestyle changes, let them know that so you can get the information earlier and know, hey, in 2 to 3 years, I'm looking at possible diabetes. I do not want that. I need to know now. Please don't surprise me with this diagnosis, because this will motivate me, because I have a family member that deals with this on a regular basis. And let them know, hey, I am really interested in lifestyle changes. What would you recommend? Do you have resources in the community? If you do not know exactly how to advise me, tell me where I can get trusted information, because I want to make change now. And just realize not everybody is that way. So communicate with your doctor and let them know your opinion, because it matters. It's your health. It's your body.
Yeah, it matters for sure. And one thing to know is that there is a lot of support and community out there, but your doctor may not be aware of everything that's available for you locally. And also our systems where we're putting in referrals and consults, that type of thing, does not support that. So, local dietitian is probably not in the system for your doctor to put in a referral. And honestly, most of the time, the doctors really don't know who's out there. And there's some fear when you're the doctor for a patient and you want them to make change and you don't know the dietitian. There's some fear there. You're like, well, if I tell them to go there, are they really going to give them the right advice? So it's just hard for all of us to connect and make sure that we're here to support you. So you may have to do some digging yourself.
Yes. And that's the whole goal of this podcast in general, is just to make people aware of resources in our community. And there are so many people out there that want to help you to be successful, bridging that gap between some of our healthcare professionals as well as the wellness industry, and realize that we can be a team for you and work together.
And there's all sorts of online resources, too, when it comes to, learning how to cook, how to eat, and things. And so we're hoping we can help compile that for you over time to just give you a trusted place to go to look for more help.
Now, aside from that, a lot of times when you're meeting with your healthcare team or your primary care doctor, there's other barriers to lifestyle medicine. And one of them is just makes me so sad, and that's just the lack of physician training. And The reason it makes me so sad is the majority of the doctors out there want their patients to be healthy, and they want to support them in any way that they can. They just may not know exactly how to do it. And it also takes a lot of time and effort to work on behavior change. And if you do not have those skills and you have not been taught how to do that, then no matter how many times you ask or reach out for support, they may not be able to do that. And that's when you may need to find one of these other options to help you on your lifestyle journey.
Yeah, I know we've said this before, but really in training, most of the time when a disease state was brought up, it was do lifestyle change. And then we went into great detail about all the other medication options, but it was really left at do lifestyle change. And then no one ever taught us, what does that mean? And so for those of us that are really excited about lifestyle change and the difference it can make in your health, and your doctor might be one of those people, they have taken the time to learn this on their own.
For those physicians that are excited and want to help their patients with this wellness journey, it's still going to be hard to get all the information that you need as a patient in a 20-minute visit. So really trying to, if you need to, schedule more frequent follow-up with your doctor so you can have more of these conversations with them or ask them how they can best support you in this journey. And one of the biggest takeaways that I just want to put out there is the basics are hard. The basics of lifestyle require work. There is no easy medication. There is no easy supplement. There is no easy hormone to just improve your overall health. It doesn't exist. If someone's trying to sell you an easy, quick fix, it doesn't exist. So please walk away. And the quicker that you are able to accept this and realize that if I want to make a big difference in my health, that I'm going to have to put time and effort into it, the sooner you're going to see success.
Just, again, I know we've said this multiple times, just realizing that those big goals that you're hoping to achieve are going to take time. So you have to be patient. And the other thing we just really want you to take home from today is that you are in charge of your health. So your doctor and your healthcare team are there to help support you. But you really need to take that responsibility, know what your medical conditions are, know what your family history is, know what medication you take, and then be ready to put in the work and be ready to make sure you're collaborating with your doctor so that you can get the best result for yourself and feel better. That's really ultimately, we want you to feel better and live happier.
Yes, and lifestyle change, lifelong, can do just that.
So, what we want you to take away from this week, again, is just to continue to observe yourself, observe your habits, see what kind of setbacks and roadblocks tend to come up for you, and how can you think these through ahead of time so that you're prepared. And talk it over with your friends and family. They may have navigated some of these same challenges that you have and have some ideas. Also, feel free to reach out to us with some of your setbacks, and we'd love to be able to share some of these and some options we may have for you on how you can overcome them, and it may help other people on the podcast.
And don't forget, on the Better Health Library, which can be accessed through our website, we have 2 resources that are out there for you if you're wanting additional information beyond this podcast. The first one being Better Habits Begin Here, where we can help walk you through making habit change in having those reflections on your current habits, as well as how to make new habits. And also, we have another amazing resource, Small Steps, Big Rewards, 50 Habits to Transform Your Health, where we go through 50 small habits that you can implement in your lifestyle and start to see differences in your overall health. So it's a great way to just help you get started if you feel like you're struggling of knowing where to go.
That's right. So you can find those on thebetterhealthlibrary.com. But otherwise, we still want to continue to hear from you as far as your questions and ideas for things you want us to cover on this podcast. And you can reach us at contact@thestartinggatepodcast.com. Well, we hope you have a great week. And next week, we will be back to start our month on nutrition.
Thanks for listening.